We're starting with some breaking news tonight at 5 o'clock. You're looking at video from a deadly crash in Tennessee involving a church bus from North Carolina. A bus carrying seniors from Front Street Baptist Church in Statesville was involved in the crash on Interstate 40 near Knoxville around 2 this afternoon. Authorities say at this time at least 8 people are dead, 14 others are injured. We're told that the bus collided with a tractor trailer and an SUV after one of its tires blew out. The group of seniors from the church was on their way back from Fall Jubilee in Gatlinburg. We have a crew headed to Statesville, and we'll bring you the latest breaking details as they come into the newsroom. And now to the latest on the blame game in Washington. The government shutdown now in its second full day. President Obama is set to meet with congressional leaders at the White House at 5:30 this evening. The Obama administration says the president will urge the House to pass a spending bill to allow the government to reopen. More than 800,000 government employees around the country are furloughed tonight. Many of them are concerned about when they're going to get their next paycheck.
It means that we have to make our groceries extend for 2-3 weeks instead of the 1 week that we have. It means that we have to maybe make the gas in the car last that much longer.
The shutdown was sparked by a House Republican effort to defend, then delay the Affordable Care Act, an effort the Senate has dismissed several times. A shutdown is affecting operations and visitor sites in North Carolina. Officials with the W. Kerr Scott Dam and Reservoir say they only have enough money to remain open through next Thursday. That has upset visitors.
I don't know what to think. I'm just angry. I think the government is, I don't know, there's no answer to it. It's crazy, but I don't have any power to change it.
If the government shutdown continues, people who have planned trips after next Thursday to the campgrounds can contact the Army Corps of Engineers to get a refund. And the shutdown is having a big impact on military towns like Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. That community has been struggling recently with mandatory budget cuts and planned reductions in the size of the country's armed forces. And the longer the stalemate in Congress drags on, the greater the fear that the shutdown crisis is going to tie into the fight to raise the debt ceiling. U.S. government is expected to hit the $16.7 trillion debt ceiling on October 17th. That means the Treasury essentially runs out of money to pay bills unless lawmakers authorize additional financing. Our continuing coverage of the government shutdown still ahead on WXII 12 News at 5. And remember, for the latest news headlines, you can always click over to WXII12.com. Greensboro's health clinic is returning, but with a new name and a lot less money. That means fewer people will get the health care services they need. Bill O'Neill has a story now from Greensboro, all new at 5 o'clock.
Before HealthServe closed its doors this past August, this clinic served 12,000 patients a year. The new clinic is expected to serve roughly 2,400 patients a year. That's less than a third of what it did before. The new clinic will be federally funded, operating on a 2-year grant roughly worth $1.4 million. That is far less than the $3 million Guilford County spent to operate the clinic before shutting it down. A spokesman for the nonprofit group that will operate the clinic calls the federal grant quote, a small step toward providing basic health care to the community's poorest residents. The focus will be on those who live in public housing and the homeless.
My organization is primarily the point of care for that population. We're going to need community support of all various sectors to help us meet that need if it is our desire as a community not to have those patients go without care or utilize higher cost care such as emergency rooms.
The clinic spokesman says in light of the state's decision to not expand Medicaid, local government and businesses must work together to fund this clinic in order to meet the growing need for health care. The name of this clinic, by the way, is going to be Triad Adult and Pediatric Medicine. It is scheduled to open its doors early next year. In Greensboro, I'm Bill O'Neill reporting. Back to you.
Frustrated over recent actions by state lawmakers, some North Carolina teachers plan to take some action, and their effort is gaining support across the state. On November 4th, some teachers have indicated they plan to skip school for the day, either by calling in sick or taking a personal day. So far, more than 500 teachers across the state have said that they plan to participate in that protest. But some local educators are telling their constituents to boycott the protest. They say a no-show that's not legitimate could be considered an illegal strike and that teachers could be fired.
I've already heard from the school district attorney, Allie Tomerlin, that if you decide to take a sick day that day, you had probably better be prepared to have a doctor's notice.
And not only are jobs at stake, she says that a day out of the classroom also impacts children. We are still waiting to find out why the school superintendent in Caswell County has been suspended. Dr. Renee Franklin's suspension was voted on by the school board in a specially called meeting on Monday. We do know that Dr. Franklin is still getting paid. She was hired in February and started on July 1st.
Looking ahead, a special meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning in High Point to discuss matters regarding that city's mayor. Several council members want Mayor Bernita Sims to resign. According to the High Point Enterprise, Sims has been under scrutiny for failure to pay a utility bill and her handling of her sister's estate.
It's another warm day out there. You're looking at downtown High Point with mostly sunny skies. Our temperatures again today into the 80s, and maybe it's a touch warm for you, but at least we've got low humidity out there. 81 degrees in Winston-Salem, that's the official high. 82 in Greensboro. Current temperature in High Point is 80. It's also 80 in Lexington, Asheboro, and Yadkinville. Our numbers are warm as well in the mountains, from 72 in Ennis to 77 degrees in Galax right now. Forecast for this evening keeps things nice and comfortable. Also going to be dry with just a few patchy clouds. We'll look for temperatures that will drop down into the mid-60s by later on tonight, and then early tomorrow morning we've got dry conditions for you, but a little bit of patchy fog. Again, in the mountains and foothills, our morning temperatures, they're going to be in the mid to upper 50s. I'll be back to tell you what you can expect when the fair opens later this week and when rain returns to the forecast.
Police say a man has been arrested in New York City for his role in a Winston-Salem homicide. Joseph Picardo Jr. has been charged in connection to the murder of 21-year-old Dante Ross. This is the second arrest in the murder. Ross was found on Ladera Crest Lane back on September 12th with a gunshot wound. He died at the hospital. Winston-Salem police say more arrests are pending. Picardo is awaiting extradition back to North Carolina. Meanwhile, police in Winston-Salem are also investigating a late-night shooting that sent a man to the hospital. Officers say around 11:30 last night, Mark Osborne was shot outside his apartment complex on Woods Road. He told police he was returning home after leaving work. We're told he is in serious but stable condition. Two people who also live in the apartment with Osborne were arrested on drug-related charges.
A jury has convicted a Reidsville man in the beating of his elderly mother. 48-year-old Joseph Turner was sentenced up to 12 years in prison today. He was found guilty in the 2012 attack on his 77-year-old mother, who suffered severe injuries, including intracranial bleeding. That teen curfew in Greensboro is no longer in effect. The city council voted yesterday not to renew the curfew that went into effect over the summer. A curfew was put in place after a large fight broke out on Elm Street in downtown Greensboro and a gun was fired.
A fraternity at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte has been suspended as officials investigate. This after an 18-year-old Pi Kappa Alpha pledge was taken to a hospital last month. Authorities say he was found unconscious during the fraternity's campout in the Uwharrie National Forest. Police say the student's blood alcohol level was more than 5 times the legal limit. The student has recovered and is now back in school.
Arrested and charged in a bomb scare at Jacksonville International Airport in Florida. Authorities say that Zelko Kausovic told screeners at a security checkpoint that he had a bomb in his backpack. However, all they found was an electronic scale and some batteries. The airport was evacuated and flights were stopped before reaching the gates. Passengers were displaced for nearly 5 hours.
5 people, including teenagers, were rushed to the hospital after a car crashed into a Greenville County, South Carolina home. The woman who lives there was not there at the time. Neighbors say something needs to be done at that intersection prone to accidents.
Oh, they need to put a caution light or something out here. They need something out here.
Authorities say the teen driver has been charged for speeding as well as violating the rules of his learner's permit. A landscape of a Triad Elementary School looks a little different tonight. That's after police say a driver may have fallen asleep or had some sort of medical condition, crashing into the sign at Bolton Elementary in Winston-Salem. It happened just after 7:30 last night. School officials say they're still trying to figure out the cost of the damage. The driver is expected to be okay.
Best-selling author Tom Clancy has died. Clancy was known for writing meticulous thrillers focusing on political intrigue and military tactics and technology. Several of his novels were made into feature films, including The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and The Sum of All Fears. Cause of death has not yet been released. Tom Clancy dead at the age of 66.
We continue to cover the latest breaking details on a fatal crash in Tennessee involving a church bus from Statesville, North Carolina.
At least 8 people are dead in that accident. 14 others are injured. We have continuing coverage still ahead on WXII 12 News at 5.
And I've got your traffic updates and all closing information when we come right back.